Andy, it's not often you get the chance to play international friendlies these days. How much are you looking forward to the next 2 games?
Yeah, good for us. I think the manager's made it quite clear this week that our record in the friendlies that we have had hasn't been very good. So we obviously want to try and change that. But yeah, look, there's nothing that can replace competitive games. We love playing competitive games. That's what we're all about. But you know, we try and use the friendlies. We try and get as much out of them as possible, and obviously we've got a big year coming up in terms of the World Cup qualifiers, and you know, hopefully these 2 games can stand us in good stead for the 6 games coming up.
Is it a case of using these games to perhaps work on some things or maybe change things to be a little bit different ahead of those World Cup qualifiers later in the year?
Yeah, of course, and I think in friendlies as well is you know, we can give other people, like some people, minutes where maybe they've struggled in competitive games and things like that. Younger players are with us, and you know, time will tell if they see the pitch, but I'd be surprised if some of them didn't. And yeah, it's about seeing players in maybe different positions or whatever. So yeah, look, we go into these 2 games looking to win first and foremost, because I think we need to try and get back to being consistent and winning games and competing in games, and I think we can start with these first 2, and then it's about building a squad and seeing what we've got as a full package going into the World Cup qualifying, because I think the last time you know, we showed there wasn't much room for error. We had a pretty perfect campaign and we still missed out, and you know, we need to try and go one better this time.
Guys like yourself, Scott McTominay, Billy Gilmour have all had really successful seasons, winning league championships, and have still reported for these 2 games for friendly matches at the end of a long, hard season. What does that say about the level of the commitment in this group, that the boys are still really committed to the cause and still want to turn up for these friendlies? Yeah,
look, I think I'd said that when I was younger, first went to Liverpool, got the captaincy and things like that. I think it was crucial that the lads that were the core group in the squad were consistent in showing up. I believe that then shows the younger lads coming in, the new lads coming in, that's the way, and you know, you always show up for your country, you know, if you can. Now, there's a few knocks and bruises, of course there is. Everyone has them by the time we get to this point of the season, but representing your country's one of the biggest honours, and it always will be. And I think we've all shown that, you know, to a good level, in terms of sometimes we've came injured, sometimes we've came not perfect, and we've always shown up. And then I think, you know, everyone's got on board with that, and the young lads that come in know that, you know, if they're fit, then they want to be involved, and you know, hopefully that carries on for years to come, because if we've got the strongest squad here and we've got the strongest team on the pitch, then it gives us the best chance of success.
Just on that, Andy, just expanding on it a bit more, do you sense a real hunger maybe from some of the younger guys who might be hoping to pick up their first caps?
I've seen them in training this week, they've been excellent. Max Johnson's came on, you know, I can talk about fullbacks, he's came on so much in the time that, you know, since his first camp period, and then to now he looks a hell of a lot more composed. He's filled out a bit, defensively looks excellent in training. Now obviously games are different to training, but that's all we can base it off just now. Lennon Miller's was good in March, but he's been excellent this week in training, and now he looks comfortable and he looks happy. And James Wilson as well has been here a couple of times now, and I think he just keeps on growing and keeps getting better. So, you know, the lads that you mentioned, maybe Billy not so much, but me, Scotty, John McGinn, people like that, we're not going to be around forever. There will come a point where you know, we have to hang the boots up, and that's still a bit away, but then it's up to the young lads to, you know, it will soon be their squad, and you know, a good few years time, but they'll then have to step up, and they'll have to then set standards and everything. I think them, you know, understanding, you know, the standards in training and how difficult international football is crucial. And I know from my experience, the younger that I experienced that, the better it was, and then I just kind of grew into it, and so did John, and we kind of done it together. And you know, hopefully these lads can do it together, and maybe in 10 years' time I can be watching them at a World Cup.
It sounds like you're quite excited about this kind of batch of players coming through. Does the future look quite bright, do you think? I
think so, yeah. I think these lads are showing, you know, a different level, and you know, their mentality is good from what we can see. Now obviously we don't work with them day to day at club level and things like that, but you know, you still do your background checks, and you know that you know how good they are, and yeah, it's just up to them to go and fulfil their potential. Really, you don't want to put too much pressure on them. You don't want to, overhype them or anything like that, but you also have to try and guide them on the way. And I think that's now our role, to try and help them. And if one of them puts in a good performance tomorrow, for you guys maybe not to get carried away and let them grow. And I think that's crucial, because the young lads need a chance. They need to gain that experience, and if they do that, then, like I said, the squad will be in a better place for years to come.
With these two games in mind, if you look at the kind of rankings of the opposition and kind of form, Scotland probably would go in as favourites for these two games. You say you want to win them. Are you comfortable with that kind of title, if you like?
Yeah, of course. Like, we, especially at home, we look to win every single game, and it's not, lately it's maybe not worked out that way. Obviously the last time we were at Hampden was a hugely disappointing evening. We can't hide away from that. And we want to, like I says, when we were at our best, I would say we were at our best again at the Euro campaign, where we were close to perfect, and I think our consistency was good, in terms of defensively and creating chances. I think we were really consistent in every single game, and I think that's what it takes for us to be successful. We can't be a team that shows up and misses 5%. We have to be all in. We have to be 100%, and if we do that, then we're a really good team. If we don't, then sometimes we struggle. So it's about trying to get that consistency again, and if we do that, then that gives us the best possible chance for the qualifiers that are coming up.
In terms of setting those standards, has that been a conscious thing to try, and when you say that maybe the more senior players do eventually move on, to try and leave that legacy with the national team? Because there was that accusation a good few years ago that maybe players didn't show up when they weren't feeling their best, or whether it wasn't the games that they wanted to play in. Is that like a conscious thing to try and leave a legacy to keep the Scottish national team, those standards going beyond the time that you leave?
Yeah, look, I think for all the lads, of course we want to leave a legacy, and I think the lads that have been involved for the last 6-8 years will do that, because we've qualified for two major tournaments that the country hadn't done in a long time, and I think that's already written. But of course you want to also leave the national team in a good place, and I think setting standards and showing what it takes to play for your country, and also showing up when, like I said, sometimes injured or sometimes not perfect, you can do that, because you do it at your club level, and you can also do it at national level as well. So I think, especially for me as captain, I think it's I make a conscious effort to kind of leave that behind as young lads. I think when I took the captaincy, that was one of the things that I always did, and at times, when I look back, at times, was it better that I stayed at home and took a week's rest? Probably, for my career, or for the long season that I'm playing and stuff like that. But I never wanted to do that, because I never shied away from a game at Liverpool or Hull, and I never shy away from a game at Scotland. So, and I think a lot of the lads have took that attitude, and that's something that's helped our success, because we've always had the players available, and I think that's what we've left behind. And I'm sure the young lads then, when it's their time to carry it on, will do that, because already you've got Billy, you've got Fergie, you've got Pato coming back in time. They do that already, and I think then they carry it on, and then people like Lennon and James and things like that will just carry it on naturally.
You said the manager's already mentioned that record in friendlies. Does that maybe just add a wee bit of an edge to these games that wouldn't have been there otherwise?
I think there's an edge anyway, because I think we want to get back to winning games, and we want to get back to feeling good. Obviously, with what happened in March, it kind of gets it gets forgotten that we actually won away from home, and we put in a really good performance against Greece, especially first half. But obviously, you then, in a two-legged tie, you have to go out and see it out, and that's the way football works. All the hard work that we put in over there gets forgotten because of how disappointing the result was back here. So it's important to understand that we had a good Nations League campaign. Obviously winning against Poland away, beating Croatia here, drawing against Portugal. We competed with really good nations, and it's important that we.
Please keep your valuables safe and secure. Thank you.
You get your phone. Where were you? So I think it's important that we see that we're still making progress, and okay, we've had a bit of a setback, but it's then about trying to get back on track, and I think these two games give us that chance before the competitive games kick in, and the competitive games, you've got no room for error, and it's important that these two games we use, and we also look at different things, and hopefully it stands us in good stead.
Andy, you're obviously not at that stage in your career now, but for the 7 uncapped players, can you maybe put yourself in their shoes and the feeling you get when you come to the national team for the first time, you're looking to earn that first cap, what that's all about?
Yeah, it was obviously a long time ago since I got my first cap now. Scary actually how long ago it was, but I still remember the day as if it was yesterday. And you know, there's no better feeling than, you know, representing your country for the first time. Now that feeling continues. I think, you know, tomorrow I'll get my 83rd cap, I think it is, and it still feels as special. But I think the first one, you know, especially if it's at Hampden, you have all your family there, you have all your friends there, and they see you represent your country for the first time. So there's no better feeling than that. There's no better pride than that. That's what you always, you know, I think when you're a little boy in the streets, or if you're in the back garden or whatever, you know, you don't know where your career's going to go, but your dream is to play for your country. And I think we were all the same in that. And yeah, if they do see the pitch, then it's important that they just enjoy every minute, because I always remember what Gordon Strachan said to me before I went on. He said, you know, play the way you play, because that's why you're here, not, you know, don't do anything else. And I think that's important with what we say to them, and do what you do at club level, because that's why you're here. And if they do that like they've done in training, then you know, I'm sure their debuts will be one to remember.
We'll move on to the embargo stuff now, guys, please.
Can I just ask one more before the embargo? Is that okay?
You're quick. Go.
Depends what it is.
That'd be good, yeah.
Andy, just a quick club question. You've lost your best mate in Trent AlexanderArnold, heading over to Real Madrid. Just how tough was that to see him leaving? How excited are you for him and his new challenge?
Yeah, it was tough, because he's a fantastic player, fantastic person as well, and obviously we kind of grew with each other in the career. You know, nobody really probably knew who both of us were when we kind of first started out at Liverpool. He was obviously an academy graduate, and then, you know, I was signing from Hull, and there wasn't much noise about my signing and things like that. But I think we just grew into the role together, and you know, we took it to a pretty high level. And I think, you know, they were the best times of our lives, the way we were playing and what we were doing. And he's obviously made a decision for himself to go and experience something new. He's playing with, you know, Real Madrid, who is, you know, one of, if not the biggest club in the world. And yeah, look, we wish him all the best now that the goodbyes are done and he's stopped his tears and things like that. Then, you know, I think obviously it looks as if he's going to go to the Club World Cup, and he'll try and hit the ground running there quickly. And, you know, we wish him all the best, because, like I says, he's a good player, or a fantastic player, but he's an even better person, and that's the person that we focus on, and we want him to do well.